I'm Olivia, and today I want to talk about some of my favorite Japanese YouTube channels that I've been using to practice my listening comprehension. I have a really wide range of YouTube channels that I want to talk about today, and of course these are only a handful of YouTube channels. There are so many out there that are so great for practicing your listening comprehension. So if there's any that you really like to use that I don't mention today, please let us know down in the comments so that we can all share our resources. In another video, I talked about some podcasts that I really like to use for listening comprehension, but when you're first starting out, it can be hard to use podcasts because you're not getting that visual cue to help you understand what's going on. Using YouTube videos is also really great because it will usually just be someone sitting there and talking to you using normal speech patterns. It's not going to be an actor who's going really over the top and speaking in a way that isn't really natural day to day. So I find YouTube is kind of the best of both worlds between watching TV shows in Japanese and podcasts, because you're usually going to get more regular speech than you would from a TV show, and you're getting those visual cues which you wouldn't get from a podcast. So if you haven't started using YouTube as a part of your study routine to practice your listening comprehension, I highly recommend that you add it to your repertoire, and let's get into those recommendations. So let's start out with the more beginner-friendly YouTube channels, and the first one that I want to recommend is Comprehensible Japanese. Now, this is by far the best absolute beginner Japanese channel that I've found so far, because the woman speaks very simple Japanese, uses a lot of repetition, and sticks to a very specific topic in each video. So how it works is there will be a woman who's speaking to you, and it will be a voiceover while she is drawing on a whiteboard. So there might be a video that is about different types of fruits, and she'll talk about the different fruits and draw them out so that you know which fruit she's talking about. And it's just a really great way to pick up on new vocabulary, because for every new word that she introduces, she will draw it out for you so that you know what she's talking about. So it is a really great resource for absolute beginners, because even if you don't understand anything that she is saying, you'll still understand what story she is trying to tell because she will be drawing it out for you. My second recommendation is Japanese Immersion with Asumi. And it's really great because it is basically her holding a tutoring session with another student. You'll get to see them having really simple conversations with each other. Sometimes she will tell a story to the student and then ask comprehension questions and have the student try to answer in Japanese. So it kind of feels like you're in your own tutoring session, and then you also get to see the student trying to understand and trying to respond back to her. And then you can also kind of pretend that you are that student and see if you can answer the questions yourself. She also has some videos where she uses puppets and is very repetitive and tells a very simple story. So those are really great to get used to listening to the language and hearing the same words over and over again. That is another really great channel for beginners. My third recommendation for beginners is not technically a YouTube channel, and it is Peppa Pig in Japanese. So if you haven't heard of it, Peppa Pig is this cartoon for children, and it's available in a lot of different languages, including Japanese. And if you check out the channel, they actually have a live stream that is just always playing Peppa Pig in Japanese over and over and over again. So that's really great to put on in the background if you just want to be listening to Japanese a lot. Because it's a children's show, you can kind of follow along what is happening even if you don't understand what they're saying as yet, because there's a lot of visual cues, there's a lot of repetition. So that's a great resource if you're just starting out and just trying to get in a lot of quality content for your listening comprehension. Another great channel to check out is called Benjiro Beginner Japanese, and it is by an American who speaks Japanese at a pretty high level, and he basically just Skype calls people who speak Japanese and records their conversations. And a really great thing about it is that while he is talking to the other person, he will have a little Word document that is open on the screen, and if the other person or himself says a word that is not that common that he thinks that a beginner probably wouldn't understand and wouldn't know what it meant, he quickly will type out the word in either Romanji or Hiragana, and then he'll write what that definition is in English. So that is a really great resource because they are talking at a slower pace and are pretty aware that beginners are watching the videos and are trying to use really simplified language. And then his annotations on the screen are super helpful, because I find whenever I'm watching something with a English translation subtitle on the bottom, it's really hard for me to not just read the entire thing even if I understand what's going on. And then I'm kind of cheating myself because I'm just turning my brain off and not listening to the Japanese, and instead I'm just reading the sentence. So I really like that he doesn't do that and instead just writes just what that one word is that might be difficult, and then writes the translation, because for me that is exactly what I want. I only want to know those one or two words that I didn't understand. I don't want to see what the entire sentence was. He doesn't upload anymore, unfortunately, but there is a pretty big bank of videos on his channel, and they're all around just under an hour long, so that is a really great resource to check out. Now moving up to some more intermediate level YouTube channels, my first recommendation is On Mapu. Now you've probably already heard of this channel because it is super popular amongst Japanese learners, and for a really great reason. He talks very clearly, he's very easy to understand, he doesn't use use too complicated of language. And basically in each episode, he will cover a different word of onomatopoeia in Japanese. So he'll just explain what it means, when it's used. He'll go over some maybe stories that use that word in context. He has subtitles in Japanese, English, and I think a few other languages as well. So that's a really great resource to check out if you haven't already. My next recommendation in the more intermediate level is called Moshi Moshi Yusuke, and that basically means hello Yusuke. And it's a really great channel. It's basically a man who wears a GoPro on his chest and just walks around town and just narrates what he's doing. Sometimes he'll meet up with friends and have conversations with them. He hard subtitles all of his videos in Japanese and English. So while you're watching, he will have what he's saying in Japanese and below what he's saying in English so that you can follow along. If there's a word that you didn't catch, you can quickly look at the screen and see what it says. Some of his videos only use hiragana and some of them also use kanji with the furigana on top. It's kind of a mixed bag there. It's a really great resource, especially if you find the more beginner materials too easy for you, but you still are missing a word here or there and really would benefit from having those subtitles right on screen for you. It's also really cool just to see like what city life is like in Japan. You kind of just get to follow along in his life. It's kind of like a daily vlog type thing, but he is talking a lot. He's using pretty basic language. He takes a lot of pauses in between his words so that it's not too fast. So that's another really great recommendation. Now, my final recommendation in the more intermediate level is by a YouTuber that I actually used to watch a lot in English, and she just started a new channel that is in Japanese, so that's really exciting. And it is by a woman named Mayuko, and she is a Japanese American who lives in California, and she's a software developer, and she speaks Japanese. So she just started this channel and only has a few videos out right now, but basically she just talks about her life. She talks about what it's like to be a software developer, and she also subtitles all of her videos. So she has the Japanese subtitles hard captioned on the bottom of the screen so you can read along with what she's saying. So that's another really cool resource that I've really been enjoying because I already used to watch her when she was doing English videos, and now I get to also watch her doing her Japanese videos. So that's been really fun for me. So that's someone that you should definitely check out. And finally, I have a more advanced YouTube channel that might be a bit hard if you're first starting out, but is still really great practice just to hear that natural speech that isn't geared towards beginners. And this channel is actually one that one of you guys recommended to me, and I've been really loving it. So thank you so much for recommending it. And it is called Archipel, I think is how you say it. And it is basically a YouTube channel that does all these mini documentaries about Japanese artists and creatives. And they kind of just interview them about their creative process, the kind of works that they're working on, and what their inspiration was. And it's just really interesting to listen to. It's really well done. It's very high quality. It is a channel that is made for Japanese speakers. So it might be a little bit hard to follow along because they aren't oversimplifying their language for the benefit of beginners. They're just talking normally, but I think it's still really great practice to listen to things like that to get used to it, because eventually you are going to have to breach into harder material and challenge yourself. Another really great benefit of this channel is that it is subtitled in Japanese, English, French, Spanish. Can't remember everything off the top of my head, but it is available in so many languages. I will say though, don't try to rely on subtitles too heavily because your brain will kind of tune out the Japanese and just focus on what it is you're reading. Just use them as a supplemental resource to check your understanding. To get the most benefit, try to do Japanese subtitles or no subtitles at all. But I know when you're first starting out, it can be a bit overwhelming, so the option is there if you need a little bit of help. Listening comprehension is really a skill and you're going to have to practice it a lot to get better at it. So even if you are just starting out Japanese and it feels a bit overwhelming, I really challenge you to take the plunge and just try listening to it and see what you get out of it. Really, it's just going to take you putting yourself out there and trying it over and over again until it clicks. It's not something that you can study and memorize a bunch of words and then just be able to understand. It really takes you actually listening to the language, getting your brain used to hearing the sounds, getting used to the patterns, the intonation, and over time you'll get better and better and your brain will kind of absorb all of that knowledge until you can understand it. So definitely after watching this video, go and check out some of those channels that I mentioned. Also, to make it easier for you guys, I took all the channels I talked about today and put them on my YouTube channel page. If you go along the top bar, there should be a tab that says channels, and I have a big bank of all the YouTube channels I talked about today and some others that are really great for listening comprehension. So if you're ever in a rut and you don't know what you want to listen to, you can go there. I will continually be adding to it whenever I find something new. If you have any recommendations of your own, please let us know down in the comments. I'm always looking for new channels to check out, and I will definitely add them to my master list so that everyone else can find them really easily as well. If you found this video useful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and that is all I have for today, and I'll see you soon.